be rental. And one of the things I wanted to share was he moved very fast on this deal, and he didn't do enough research. And he got bit by a few things. Now, because of the market, he's not in a bad situation, but he got bit by a few things. First of all, he had sold a home up north. He bought the condo for cash. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, $170,000. At the time he bought it 3 months ago, 2.5, 3 months ago, there were comps as low as 150 in there. So he bid high right off the bat, hoping to get it, not realizing that there were multiple deals to be had in there. He did not research previous sales. He did not research how many are sold in the last 6 months, and he did not fully research the price. Now, the second thing he did was, because he paid cash, he didn't set up the condo by setting up electricity, setting up insurance. He just figured he'd get it and figure it out later. He got bit because when you don't have insurance on the day of title, you end up paying a penalty when a place goes out of insurance and back in insurance. So he ended up paying several $100s more to insure the property because he didn't set it up. The power was also shut off on him in the first 2 days. And the third thing that happened was he intended to borrow the money on a cash out refi after he bought it cash, except two things that he didn't understand. If you already own the property and you do a cash out refi, your interest rate is higher as a second or investment property. It's also higher as a cash out refi than if you bought it. And the last thing that he got bid on, he was unable to get a traditional mortgage because it turns out there are too many rental properties in that condo community. So it was deemed a condo-tel. If you go online and you Google it, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are the guidelines for conforming mortgages. You can Google conforming as well. Because it was a condo-tel with too many rentals, he was not allowed to get a conforming mortgage. And he was offered 65% mortgages at 4 or 5%, 5-in-1 arm mortgages. And now he doesn't know if he's going to sell it because he's improved it. He could make a profit as a flip because it was in rough condition and they're selling much higher. But he's now stuck with, does he flip out and make 10 or 15 grand? Or does he try to take a modified loan or a 5-in-1? And what's he going to do? Because his plans have completely changed because he didn't do his research. So this is why I say to people, when I hammer home, do your research, do your homework. He's going to be okay because the market's gone crazy still, but he's not able to execute the plan he wanted because he did not set up and do the homework before he executed the plan. So I just want to tell that story because right now he calls me 4 times a day. Do I sell it? Do I keep it? And I say, look, there's risk in anything you do. But now if he keeps it, he has $185,000, $190,000 invested, and he's unable to get more than 65% out, and he has to have a higher interest loan. So it affects him when he buys another property. He sold his primary property to do this. He still lives in Massachusetts. He's a good guy, he'll do okay, but here's what I want to tell you. You can't prevent all mistakes, but you can prevent 6 or 7 out of 10 of them by doing the research. And I'll go into offers later, but a lot of groups teach multiple offers. He could have made multiple offers on the property, but if he had done one thing first, and Terry knows this, if he had called the mortgage broker first, got pre-qualified and discussed the address, whether he used the loan or not, the mortgage brokers are experts. She would have turned around because, by the way, I also called her and she's providing a 5-in-1 arm bailout option to my friend, but she would have told him up front, hey, I can't mortgage you on that property. And it would have put the brakes on and changed how he bought the property. So lessons from this. Number one, you got to do your homework, because if you don't, you end up having to change midstream from what you thought you could do. He thought he'd buy 3 condos. On his very first, he got stopped right in his tracks because of this loan issue. Okay. Number 2, make sure he used just a generic real estate agent. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of people say, hey, this agent's pretty, this agent's nice, this agent's this. Do you go to a real estate agent that knows what they're talking about? Because the power got shut off on him, his insurance bill got jacked, And nowhere along the way did the insurance agent say, hey, you should set these things up before you take possession, especially on a cash deal. Networking and knowing your people and asking questions, being proactive, as Stephen Covey would say in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I made a lot of mistakes in the past too. You know, as Dave Ramsey says, I've been dumb. But here's what I'm going to say. If you're thinking about doing a deal and you're thinking about doing something out there, this is an opportunity for you to realize other people's mistakes and to fix them for yourself before they become your mistakes. And you'll only be stronger and better for it. All right, thank you. That's all I had to share for today's meeting. I can't hear you, Devon. I feel your pain. I was like that with a rototiller today.
Okay, how's that now? Let's hear. Let's switch microphone here. All right, how's that now? Testing, testing.
It's low, but we can hear you.
You're low. You're very low, Devon.
Oh God.
Tori, where are you from?
Atlanta.
Okay. Did I hear there was, or maybe there was before? I can't hear you, Terry, so I'm going to go to Tori. Tori, what are you looking at doing? What are you here for? What are you looking at picking up?
So I'm actually looking to flip a condo or flip a home in St. Thomas, the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, can I come and stay in it before you do?
Sure, yeah. That's what I'm looking at. Because with the houses, the single family homes are so expensive now. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to pay all that money for a single family home, and then it'd be hard to get my equity later down the line. But then I didn't want to buy a condo because I just felt like they were hard to sell. So I'm like, well, if I am going to purchase a condo, I would rather it be in a tropical area. It's a hot southern area, not Atlanta, where you see a bunch of office buildings. So I think it might be a good investment to go that route.
Don't forget a shopping mall. Stay in Atlanta, shopping mall, hotel. But,
Yeah.
people said you can't make money with a condo. Here's what I'll tell you. I'm not a big time flipper. I'm a part-time guy who did it on the side. And I did in the last, I did it over 7 years, but I still have one. I did 2 single family detached homes and 2 condos. And I'll tell you, my first long-term flip on a home where I learned a lot of lessons, I made about 30 grand. I bought a condo at 70% of that value, and I made 50K this year flipping out of it. And it was a buy and hold short-term rental and flip out. I made more money on a condo that cost 70% of the price than I did on my first single detached family flip. So here's what I'll tell you. General rule of thumb, single family detached homes, make more money, just like multifamilies are a better option. But what I will tell you is there are condos that can make money. Location, location, location. I did mine in Vieira, which people from Brevard understand Vieira is a kind of an uppity area. But I'll tell you, you can make money with them if you look at the comps and you study the area.
What state is Vieira?
So I'm in Brevard County, Florida, which is near Melbourne, Florida. So we're about 37 miles east of Orlando, and we're about just before Cocoa Beach when you go eastbound.
Okay.
So, and Vieira it's a planned unit development community, and they marketed the hell out of it, which is why I bought in the area. I came down in 2012, and I lived in them so that I could take the 2-year cap gains exemption. I lived in 2 of them. I rented the 2 condos. I lived in 1, flipped out, lived in another house, did 4 total, did 3 additional ones on the side with other people, but I did 4 on my own. Well, 1 with my girlfriend because she wanted to do it. But you can make money on condos. In fact, one of the condos I bought as a foreclosure. It's in East Vieira, which is a very high income, nice area. And that thing is just a little cash cow, little moneymaker.
Can you explain what you mean by the 2-year cap thing?
So when you buy a home, if you buy it as a primary residence where you intend to live in it and file taxes and claim it as your residency, for 2 years, if you live there, when you sell it, you have a cap gains exemption. I believe it was either 200 or 250 for an individual and maybe 400 or 500. I think it went up to 250, 500. You have to check with a CPA on that. But it's also, I believe, in the aggregate, meaning if you only lived a year, you get a partial discount. But let's put it like this. You buy a house for 100 grand, you sell it for 200 grand. That's $100,000 profit. If you live there for 2 years as your primary residence, none of that is taxable.
Oh, okay.
So there's a cap gains exemption, meaning, so this year I sold a condo. When I sold the condo, 2 things happened. Depending on your income level, you can depreciate year over year so that when you're making money on the rent, you make all the money with almost no taxes or very little, because they depreciate the value of the condo as if it's a business asset that's being written off. If you make too much money, you can't do it. And it really doesn't matter at the end, because when you sell it, you have to pay all that back. But to make matters simple, if you buy at one price and you sell for a profit, living in the unit allows you to claim tax-free status or a reduced tax status for how long you live there.
Okay.
So my first house, I made 30,000 on the flip. I lived in it for 3.5 years. I paid no taxes. The house I'm in now, I've lived here 5 years. I plan on renting it. I was going to flip it. It's doubled in value. If I sold it today, I would get out with over $210,000 in profit, and I would pay no taxes.
This is regardless of who's the president.
This is capital gains exemption. Look up capital gains exemption for primary residence.
Okay.
You have to live in it. And I don't want to give advice like a CPA, because I'm not a CPA and I have a CPA. But if you live in it as a primary residence, okay, you have a capital gains exemption. 2 years for the full exemption. It's in the aggregate, meaning if you live 1 year, you get a partial exemption. But the best way for a first-time flipper to start out is to buy a home and move in it, especially if you're going to flip out of it. And then go to a CPA and said, I lived here for 6 months. I lived here for a year. Can I take a discount, 25% off what I get for taxable income? Because if you plan on making 40 grand on your flip and you get to pay taxes on that when you flip it, you have 2 options. You can 1031 exchange, meaning you take all that money, put it in your next project, or you can take it for a capital gains exemption. And let me give you an example. If you move into flips, right? One advantage is to live there, stay there for the 6 months or year before you flip it, and then declare it on your taxes and take the exemption. All the money you move forward is tax-free on your next flip. You don't have to worry about a big $300,000 payday at the end being taxed. So look up cap gains exemption for primary residence, and that'll tell you everything you need to know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
You're
good
smart to
job,
ask that now, even though you're
Yeah.
doing something in the islands, because the best way to start a flip is to live in it for 6 months or a year. Because if you're starting out, primary mortgages are the best discount. 15 or 30 year, 15 years the best rate, but 30 year for a home you're going to live in, the lowest rate. And escrow, the taxes and insurance, keep that rate secure and low. That's the best interest rate on a conforming mortgage you're going to get. Conforming means it's a mortgage that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the federal government can buy and service the loan. That's what most mortgage breakers want. They want a loan they can sell to the federal government to service.
Okay, what if I was trying to pay cash for it?
What's the purpose of the property? Is it to live in, or is it strictly as a flip or a buy and hold?
As a flip?
Okay, so you're going to short-term flip it,
Yeah.
and this will be over. I don't know the tax laws, depending on, because some islands are owned or properties or territories of the US, some are not. So where you're going, is it a territory of the US falling under tax law, or is it a tax law for another country?
It's the first thing you said.
Yeah, so I would still have to check with the CPA, because they may have laws that are, indigenous to them for what they have, because some of them are territories of the United States, not actual states. So they may have their own rules. But if you're going to flip a property, the number one thing I would say is, if you're not going to live in it, none of what I just said applies. You're going to be, and if you're paying cash, none of the mortgage or conforming applies. So whatever you take as a profit, if you take all that profit and put it into a subsequent project after that, you should be able to 1031 exchange.
Oh,
Look up 1031 exchange. I've never done them. I've paid the taxes and moved on because I either qualified for the exemption or I just held the property. So I don't go for 1031s. I would if it was, something I needed to do. My girlfriend almost did when we sold this one. But truthfully, taking the exemption and cashing out, putting the money back in, it means you start over again with a new set of funds, and it's actually better than a 1031, but that's specifically if you can take the exemption. If you're doing a property where you're buying it, it's always an investment and you're flipping out of it, it might be best to look into a 1031 exchange, meaning whatever you make, say you put 100 grand in, you sell for 150 or you make 40, 50 grand, put all that in your next project and 1031 exchange it. The bad side of that is down the road, eventually, you're going to cash out someday when you're 70, whether you're 50, whatever, and you're going to pay cap gains on all of that. Okay. The only difference would be is if you move back in as a primary residence, paid back the depreciation, and then took the exemption. But remember, you can keep kicking the can down the road, but once you pass your personal exemption, whatever you make is taxable at a capital gains or income rate. So, you got to do what's best for you. And this is why I tell people homework, homework, homework. There's 5 ways to do things. There's only one way that's right for you. The other 4 ways are not wrong. They're just right for other people.
Way to
All
go,
right, John, I'm
John.
talking too much. I want to turn it over to you.
No, man, you're doing great, man. Hopefully you can hear me better now. Better,
can.
worse? Oh,
you can.
good.
Yeah, it's better.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, way to go, John. I enjoyed every bit of that. I mean, and there are creative ways of doing all types of these deals. But that's what this community is about. For those of you who don't know what a 1031 exchange is, as John mentioned, I mean, he said a lot, right? And to unpack some of it, I would say most everybody on here is in that new spot. So even for myself, we have a family plan that allows us to move every 2 years, which means that I buy a new home every 2 years. Why? Because number one, I get to take advantage of that very same IRS ruling. If you're married, you get to take advantage of $500,000. So my wife is worth a lot more alive than anything else. And I tell her, I said, don't leave me now. You're worth your weight in gold because of it. 2, if you're single, you only get 250. So for those of you who are single and want to take advantage of more capital gains rates, get married. Nonetheless, the idea behind getting in on your primary residence is one way simply to stack your assets. I do like the 1031 exchanges. I like them where commercial property is concerned more so than personal property, but they are doable. One of the clawbacks to the 1031 is, yes, when you sell, John was right on everything that he said. When you sell, you're eventually going to pay that capital gains back. However, most people in the 1031s, they just simply keep kicking the ball down the road and constantly doing a 1031 exchanges. So their community is out there that you can connect for 1031 exchanges, so that even if the valuation on your assets are low sometimes, some of those 1031 exchanges can get you closest to your appraised value as much as you want. And you keep rolling that over a couple of times, you can have a hefty profit within your 1031 portfolio. But it's not for everybody. We do have someone in our camp that's a specialist for the 1031. If you guys are interested in it, please let me know. I will bring him on one of the Sunday evenings, and he can tell you exactly everything you need to know about those 1031 exchanges. His name is Victor. What's Victor's last name? I'll come back to it later. But Victor lives in Dallas, Texas, and he's 70 years old and has been doing 1031 exchanges for the greater part of maybe 30 years. In addition to that, I think I would like, now most of you know John, right? Lind in our group here, and he's a flipper in the Brevard community. I think Terry, you have reached out to him. Anyone who would like to get a hold of what it takes in order to become a flipper in that space, I would simply tell you, collaborate, connect. That's the best way in order to do this thing. John, by no means is a lightweight, right? Meaning many people in this space talk a good game, but they actually have to be living and doing what they say. So John has already have a setup with lawyers and accountants and everything else. For those of you who are listening, you may not have that. And hence that's why the experience of the collective is a lot better than simply having an individual that can talk a good game and then sign you up to a $30,000 program. We're not about to do that to our group here. And we technically want to grow with one another in this space. Now, I'm a proponent of just simply getting started. I don't care where you're at. I don't care where you are, whether it be in Timbuktu or in the United States. The fact that you are here means that you want to push the envelope for yourself. At some point, I will start showcasing the accounting side of things. I'm not sure when that will occur, but I know we start recording in March to showcase what the accounting for the real estate is like. However, our focus for at least this month is to talk as much about real estate as we possibly can. Now, there again, I'm a big component of raising capital from the fund side of things. And for me, it's a lot easier to go do that than to flip individually. Most of my portfolio is a buy and hold portfolio. So I kind of like to stay in that lane. And for me, it gives my kids something to talk about for later on. Flipping is great, don't get me wrong. But there again, this real estate game is a serious business. And you can't really joke about it. If you're interested, sometimes it's going to take you a while in order to get your first capitalization in order to do it. And if you're in that boat, then simply join others who would like to join you on your acquisition. Now, there are tons of ways you can do it. But there again, our thing is partnering up with capital and then allowing it to work for you. An interesting perspective came this week, just to share a story. I'm working on a private placement memorandum for a 506C Reg D offering. Right? What does that mean? That's an exemption from the SEC that gives you the rights to go out there and raise capital and make an offer to accredited investors. And to be an accredited investor in the United States, you singly, I think the cap that stops you out is about $250,000 in W-2 money, and I think $500,000 in assets, or it may have gone up to $1 million now. But that's the minimum to be considered an accredited. For those of you who are married, it goes up to $300,000 in W-2 money with $1 million in assets. What that says is that you are accredited enough to know your risk in the game. And a lot of the 506Cs, some start with 50,000 investment, others can go as low as $20,000 investments. And those are the bigger deals that you see out there in terms of the 100+ units. I should share my screen for this one. Let me share there's a program that I go to on Thursday nights. Let's see if I can bring it up here. And it's called Apartment Investing. Wrong click. Apartment Investing. And this week, and it's interesting to go through this, the leader of this is called Cornelius Cannon. And these guys are raising capital at an unbelievable pace for larger deals. Now there again, if you don't want to take the traction of flip and switch, the flipping game, you can join a group like this. And let me see if I can paste this address in the message boards for you. Let me just click this and copy this, and I'll paste it right into the chat room. All right, I'll paste this into the chat room so that those of you who are interested can more than likely listen in and tune in to their sections. They actually talk a lot about and very similar to Shark Tank, they do a very similar process whereby they have their experts come on board and critique the presentations of individuals who are developing those deals. Right? Why I like those deals? Primarily because it's a larger group, and there are certain time frames whereby I can just, after I do my due diligence, of course, just drop my money in and it can passively work for me. Now, that's not for everybody, but those of you who have a drip investing policy, there are deals on there where you can get in as low as $1,000, right? And they do have a lockup period and you got to do your homework. But for the most part, those deals are 3 to 5 years with an exit strategy. And normally, a lot of those apartments are either going to be what they call C rated or B+ rated. And the reason for that is a lot of the developers like to go in at the C rate, raise the rents over the next 2 years, which gives them a greater return on their investments, so that when it's time to sell out, they can sell out for a higher valuation. So I find that that club to be one of the areas that give us a lot of information, especially when they're analyzing the income of an area to see if the rents can match the population growth as well as the income, and their sensitivity analysis for the bigger deals. Of course, depreciation and segregation cost are very vital, because those who are in a higher W-2 payment structure would love to take advantage of depreciation so they can claw back into the government as they pay. And if you do it correctly, you technically can have a 0% tax rate if you do enough of these deals with a cost segregation study that claws back into the contributions to the government through your taxes. So that's one area that's really, really compelling for me, primarily because the fix and flip is great, but sometimes you're isolated. And one of the reasons that the limitation on the fix and flip is your down payment creates a scenario to whereby you can technically get a cash constraint on the level of investments that you do. And if you
Can I
think of,
speak on that? And
Go-
not to interrupt you,
go
John, but
ahead.
can I
Go ahead.
enumerate exactly what you're talking about?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No,
what
not
he's
all.
saying, I want you guys to understand this. So this is very important because he hit a really big, important point. And I just met Devon not too long ago. And he's in a space that I'm trying to learn about. And I want to break it down for you guys because what he said is it's gold right there. So I wanted to be a flipper, a buy and hold guy. I wanted to be a guy with a ton of properties when I first started out. And what I morphed into was a guy who currently owns one home, one rental property, and I'm close to debt free. I think I have 34 grand left to pay off. So I took a very small amount of money out of my retirement and I flipped it into $750,000 debt free. It's not leveraged, but here's the problem. How many people here, just by a show of hands, want multiple properties? And how many people just want to flip? So nobody here wants to buy and hold? Terry, you don't want to buy and hold? Yeah. So here's what I'll tell you. There's something called reserves. If you buy a property to rent it out, you now have to hold for the property you live in, if you own it with a mortgage, 2 to 3 months of expenses. Some places will say 2, some will say 3. That means your mortgage payment, your taxes, and insurance. And then for every rental property you're renting, you need 6 months. So if you buy that rental property with a mortgage, you need 6 months worth of expenses. Now, at one point, I held a primary residence with a mortgage, and I held 2 rental properties. I wanted to buy a condo for 103,000. They wanted me to have almost 80 grand in reserves to borrow 77,000. I mean, you end up in a situation where they want you to have reserve cash on hand for traditional mortgages, conforming mortgages. You need more cash in the bank than you're actually going to borrow. That's what he means by getting locked into a situation where you need more money in the bank than you're actually going to borrow, running out of room, running out of leverageability. That's what he means. For anyone here who thinks they're going to flip and maybe do some buy and holds and maybe buy their own home or have their own home with a mortgage, those reserves, and Terry, I gave you kind of like a detailed analysis of this last week. Those reserves are what he means by running out of room. The bank is going to require, the mortgage company is going to require those reserves, and you're going to end up needing more money in the bank than you're actually going to borrow from the bank. And that's what happened to me.
That's also one of the reasons why I like to have to tap my cash reserves at different banks. So I'm finding that money, to be honest with you, is through the credit unions, right? So Community Credit Union gave us a line, personal credit, unsecured, guys. They max us out at 60,000, right? Launch is willing to give us 25,000. I think Space Coast is also willing to give us 25,000. Truist, who is now BB&T and SunTrust combined, they have some programs that not many people know about. But one of the programs that they have is if you can show them that you have a cash reserve, for every $20,000, they will give you a personal line of credit unsecured for $5,000. So, but they max out at 250,000 for that credit line. And there again, in order to get that to 250, you would now have to showcase like you have a stock portfolio of $1 million or more, or something in insurance monies or something along that line that would give you access to the $250,000. But they don't tell you that until you get in the bank and it's fine print, you know. So, but there again, there are ways of finding the money. Now, we're knocking, I think I have a list of over 200 credit unions here in the state of Florida. I did have a team member of mine compiled it, let's say a year ago, and that actually have some detailed information on there. I'll share that in the spreadsheet next week if I can find it this week. I'll make a note to have it so that you guys can start knocking on the doors of those credit unions and everything else. There's another online.
Ron, did you see the question off on the chat
Oh, where is it?
from John Fontaine?
Hey,
I don't see him on the.
John is there, but John is a coworker of mine. He's
Okay.
so he logged in using my name, and he's one of he put it on here as a co-host.
Okay, he logged in and he asked, I'm trying to find, do you have any comment on the politics of being a landlord when rents are skyrocketing and the incomes are not? So do you want to take that, or do you want me to take that?
I mean, that's one of the problems that we're having now in Florida, right? Meaning there are some laws. I think it's going to the House in Tallahassee, whereby they are trying to get landlords now to have fixed rates on their revenues, primarily because the rate of inflation, everything is going up, but the salaries aren't going up likewise. So you're finding residents in, let's say specifically Orlando, that are getting priced out of the market, especially locals. International people, it's different because obviously when you're international, you have lots of revenues or reserves. But when you're on a fixed income and the area that you work in or reside in is, how should I put it, climbing higher and higher, it's now getting into the political discussions between Republicans and Democrats. And, I really don't care which side of the fence you're on. Last time I checked, the color of money is green. So I don't care whether you're in the blue category or in the red category. But at the end of the day, those things are now playing into politics. I don't really want to get into politics from this showcase perspective. Our goal is to find ways of investing and making money outright. So whether you're a Dem or a Republican, not an argument for us at this particular time. But John, if you want to add anything to it, go right ahead, man.
Well, I'll say this. I have a rental unit that's coming up for rent in May 31st as the renter's moving out. He said he's moving out, but of course, until the 30 days out, you never know because they change their mind and for whatever reason. And his rent is artificially low. Back when he rented 4 years ago, I did a 3% increase during one of the years. I gave a drop because he did a 2-year lease. And during COVID, my lawyer advised, look, if he's paying the rent on time, don't jack the rent. Just take the rent and just don't do anything. But here's the fact. He is currently like at least 14 to 18% below market rate right now. So if he wants to re-rent, what am I going to do? I'm going to present him with market rates and then discount him for there based on his longevity. So I might say, look, I need to bring you up to X dollars, but I'll knock $50 or $100 off based on longevity for what you offer. And I'll tell him my insurance, my taxes, my expenses, my HOA have not remained stable. They've gone up. So realistically, I don't care what they say. You have to explain to them that if your expenses are X, your need to collect is Y. And this is true. When you go to, right now, Burger King announced today that they're increasing expenses on everything. Major chains have already increased. Look at Home Depot, look at the price of things. And they need to understand this. And look, inflation is hitting all of us. But when they go to the supermarket, they don't say to the supermarket, hey, Publix, hey, Walmart, my check didn't go up 17%, ergo my groceries can't go up 17%. The fact of the matter is you have expenses, you have profit, you have a margin. And if you don't maintain that, you're going to end up with a property where you are keeping the real estate agent, the tax person, all the property manager, the HOA in business, and you're not keeping yourself in business. You have an obligation to yourself to be reasonable and fair and to look at market rates. But you also have to look at the tenant. Are they a long-term tenant? Do they pay on time? What's their situation? What would it cost you? For example, if you want to get a tenant out, you will have to pay a vacancy cost because it's still COVID, though it's the tail end of COVID. So I'm not going to show the unit while the tenant's in there. That means I'm going to go through 1 to 4 weeks of vacancy. It'll probably rent quicker because I've already had questions about renting it, but it's going to go to market rate. And if the tenant says 30 days out, and by the way, you need this in your lease. In my lease, it specifically says, I use the Florida Bar Association lease, and then I write an addendum with anything I want corrected, amended, or changed at the end of the lease. Both are signed and both are considered part of the lease document. But what I say to them is, look, I will never, be in a situation where you don't know the facts up front. But here's what I'm going to tell you. When you go to re-sign a lease 30 days out, 90 or 60, 90 days out, I notify you my intent to allow re-renting, meaning I'm not going to sell the unit. I'm not going to move in the unit. I intend to re-rent the unit. Once I notify them, and it's either 60 or 90 days, they have a 30-day notice where they must notify me that they intend to seek renewal. And it's very important I put they intend to seek renewal because it's not automatic. If I want to get rid of a tenant, at that point I say I'm not willing to re-rent to you. So 30 days out, they intend to seek renewal. That's when I give them the offer and I have it ready to go, probably 45 days in advance. And I say, look, here's the market rate. Here's the discount based on your longevity and you as a tenant. And I take into account the fact that it would be vacant. I take into account the fact that I would have to re-rent it. I take into account 50% of 1 month's rent is what I would have to pay a real estate agent or 2 real estate agents who divide that commission. And usually that gets me to the discount. So if you're going to rent for $1,500 and you're going to pay $750, you're going to be paying about $55, $60 a month for that real estate agent for a year. That's about the discount I'll give. And that keeps me fluid. Okay. But you have to be reasonable and you have to tell them up front, and you don't have to over communicate, but you have to say, look, my expenses have gone up. And here's another thing for those of you, especially in Brevard County, or those of you that do rental properties, Florida caps the tax rate increase for primary residences that are homesteaded. However, if you own a rental property, your taxes skyrocket. Okay. One property that I have, the taxes were $1,200 and change. It's now almost $2,800 a month, and I've owned the property 8 years. It's more than doubled. Now, the rate of inflation is money doubles every 20 years. Taxes have doubled every 8.5. So here's what I'll say to you. The expense to hold that property is rising faster than the rate of inflation, and it was rising before our current inflation market. You need to communicate that. You need to say to your tenant, look, as a landlord, my expenses are rising exponentially. I am never going to charge you more than market rate, and that's where comparables come in. If you're a buy and hold person, you need to go on the MLS, you need to go on Zillow, you need to go on all the sources you can get, and you need to check rental properties in your area. Right now, every month, every 2 weeks, I go on and I PDF a copy and I save a rental because I'm looking at May 31st. Every rental that comes on the market in my condo, in my home, in my neighborhood, and anywhere near it goes PDF'd into a file as a market rental. Okay. And for how many people here are just starting out? Terry and Tori, have you done it before? Okay. So listen, there is nothing more important than 3 things I'm going to tell you right now. 1, be willing to learn. Be willing to say, what does that mean? What is that? What does that mean? How does it affect me? Number 2, have a plan for yourself. The plan may change. My plan was to own 4 or 5 rentals. With COVID, with all that's happened, it's changed, but I still have a plan. And the third thing is networking. I have a lawyer, broker, CPA, and friends in the real estate world. And every day, I think Devon, I've called him and talked to him for 90 minutes to 2 hours in the last 2 weeks, once a week. I talk to everybody and say, what's going on in your world? What's happening? And I take from that what I can put into my world. And I had a goal, and I'm almost at my goal. This year, 2022, I shall reach the goal that I set for myself. Your goal is different from everybody else. Maybe you want to own 100, maybe you want to own 2, 1, whatever. Have a goal, have something in mind. But to answer the question that was asked about the politics, look, it's not politics. It's X and Y, expense, okay, and rent, period. Market rate and the discount you're willing to give for somebody based on longevity, or the market rate that you're willing to rent at. And every real estate appraiser in the world, in full disclosure, I had a real estate appraisal license back in 2014, a trainee license. It's a market rate. Everything you think is worth, it's worth what the market's willing to pay. Have you ever had something you thought was very valuable, but nobody wanted to buy it? And have you ever had something that's valuable? Go to a used car lot right now. Go to Toyota. They have mostly used cars, and they're priced at the price of new cars. And when you ask them how much is a car, they say, look at the sticker on the window, it goes up from there. That's because right now, production is down, cars are stuck in Los Angeles. Therefore, they have a limited supply, high demand, costs go up. You're in a supply and demand market, and you're in an expense market, and that's the reality of it. Politics aside, I don't care who's in office. It costs me this much, I need to make this much, period.
Oh, that's a good opportunity for those who want to get in the car rental business now. Nonetheless, I guess the chips coming over from South Korea and China are not coming over fast enough. But I was told by Q3 we should have most of the chips here, so we shouldn't have a car problem. But nonetheless, John, great as usual. John Fontaine, was there enough answer in the pipeline for you that satisfied your question?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was looking for. That was very well put and very easy to digest.
Okay. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you.
Home run. Any other questions, John, that you wanted to entertain?
Tori and Terry and Kaylin, do you have any questions? Where are you at? Just so I know, like, where are you at now and what are your immediate goals?
I think Terry, I'm just wondering if we will be speaking on Forex as an investment.
Terry, I'd like to hear where are you at? Your microphone's not working.
Okay. No, she said we can't hear her too tough. All right. Yes. To answer your question, yes. Forex is a great space for me as well. Let me see if I can share some of this. Don't have my MP4 on here, or maybe I do. I do love Forex as well. And I like it to the extent whereby you can kind of set your own profit margins and your loss margins. We will get into Forex, but most of the guys in Forex, they're going to tell you, you're going to need to have some other reserves. So I didn't want to get into Forex relatively right away too quickly, because most people normally blow their account. There it is. My broker in the Forex market is LQD. And normally you need two things in the Forex market. You need a broker just like anyone else, but you also need an MP4. I don't have it on this system, but I do have my other systems available on another computer. But tell me, Terry, what is, I mean, if you can turn your thing on. Oh, now it decides to come up, right? This is my Forex accounts, and I'm watching gold at the moment, but I'm watching it with a Renko Street eyesight on there. So this is telling me when is a good time to buy. This tells me when is a good time to sell. And I follow some indicators that make my job a lot easier. And then we'll get into some of these things later on. But in order to do this, we got to take our time on the Forex game, primarily because everyone's in on Forex right now, and they're talking a good game. This is almost like the wild, wild west as well. So you got to be extremely careful in this space. Even though I have all these indicators and everything to tell me exactly what I need to do and everything else like that, it's not the same because of emotionalism, right? And when I say emotionalism, I simply mean, for example, the Forex market opens up on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it closes Friday at, I think it's 4 or 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, one of those. And granted, it's a 24-hour system, so you can be eyeballs to this thing as much as you like. The difficulty you're going to have in this space is understanding what your risk management is. So I don't want you to get too carried away in the Forex. Normally view Forex as a place to park some money, but it's not a place whereby you're going to bring thousands of dollars to and think that you're going to win all the time. You know, and we'll get into what my setups are and everything else like that. But for the most part, Terry, if I didn't have 2 or 3 other incomes coming in, I would leave this alone. Yes, you have people who have started up with accounts at $100 and they grew them to 6 figures. Yeah, but that takes years, right? Years of practice, years of training, years of understanding what the market is. Now, as we can see, let's see here. This one, remove this one out. Okay. There are pairings in the Forex market, and I didn't want to get into that, but we all use indicators to help us out. Just based on this indicator here for the Aussie US dollar, it's telling me that everything is a buy, and it's been a buy since between December 3rd and December 6th. So it's been going up, 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 up. All the indicators have been indicating that, and my volume and pressure counts is extremely high. It goes to 100. So I shouldn't be shorting this at this particular time frame. That's just to give you an idea. But once you have live money on the ticket, guess what? All of your rules gonna go out the window. So you want to just take it in stride.
The Thai bot, Devon?
Say again, sorry?
Can you call it the Thai bot, B-H-A-T, the Thai bot for me?
Thai bot. Sure.
And by the way, crypto and Forex, those things are less than 3% of my portfolio. That's what and by digital currency, by the way, is killing gold and silver as we traditionally know it. If it wasn't for digital currency, I think you would have seen gold and silver skyrocket already.
Mm-hmm. Thai bot. Which one of the Thai bots?
No, PHA Thai, like the Thailand, the bot. I put it in the chat for you.
PHA. Oh.
It's the money for them, yeah.
Let me see where.
I'm just curious where their pips are because they were between 30 and 34, 30 and 33.5.
Mm-hmm. see.
I only watch that because we hold Thai baht, so as a currency.
Okay, where are you? Doesn't want to come up for me now. Oh, where are you? All right.
Hey, by the way, I should mention this, and I told this to my friend.
Mhm.
You are going to see the market tank due to the pressure in Ukraine right now, and we've seen that today. It was all red across all of my stocks.
Mhm.
Whatever's going on in Ukraine is going to have an effect on the market for everybody.
Yeah. Oh, spell it for me, John.
THAI
THAI
space BHAT.
BHAT. Okay. All right. That's a currency pegged against the US.
Yeah, it's currently down for Thailand. It was up as high as 33, 34 to the dollar,
Okay.
but it's very weak right now. It's been weak as low as 30, but it's pretty weak.
Let's see. Over the last 5 days, it's almost been flat. Over a
Yeah.
month, it has a slow incline. All right, over a year, it's been declining. So, and it's a low enough trigger. I don't trade that currency, but I stick to the major peers so that I know that it can always be liquid. But for the most part, I'm glad that everyone's interested in other asset classes. And that's exactly what we're here for. So if we all can get in that space of understanding, where money comes from and how do we circulate it in our portfolio, that would be a wonderful space to be in. And there again, I'll hopefully showcase that in my accounting a little bit later on, Terry, for you to show exactly the debits and credit side of how to make your own budgets out of your own accounting stuff, because it can get stupidly crazy out there, right? Meaning we got a Cash App account. You have a Coinbase account. You have a
Robinhood.
Robinhood account, right? You have a MP4 account. You have a broker that's unregulated, right? And you want to be careful with those unregulated brokers, right? Meaning you put your money in, they don't technically have to give you money back, right? Because they're unregulated. But at the same token, those ones that have longevity may, if it's not too much risk for you and you just want to grow to a certain number, take the cash back, that kind of thing in your learning stages, that's doable. But anytime you're bringing any considerable money to the table, you better go get a regulated broker, right?
Can I jump in on this?
Go ahead,
Devon?
John.
Let me know. You can push me back too. So I want to talk about a diversification, if I
Mhm.
might.
Go ahead.
So this year, or actually during COVID, the last year and a half, 2 years, diversification became a big deal to me. What diversification means is you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So for me personally, I'm retired early. I have a government pension. So that is the bulk of my income long term, okay, from 21 years, working for the government. Now, one thing I did after I transitioned from real estate is I realized that real estate was great, but at this point, it represents 91% of my portfolio. So I want to tell you guys who are looking to flip, if you're looking in the real estate game, to put all your money in real estate is good and you make money, but here's the problem. If real estate tanks and 91% or more or less is involved in real estate, you tank with real estate. What Devon's talking about when he says, don't put too much money or do this, he's talking about risk aversion. And what that means is, number one, diversification. So for me, 3% or less is cryptocurrencies and precious metals. I personally own about $12,000, $13,000 in gold and silver. I know it's ridiculous, but I often tell my brother, I own enough tradable silver in small round quantities that I could trade or barter if the whole currency went to crap. And I don't think the government's going to collapse tomorrow. I just mean I have it as a hedge. I have gold, I have silver, and I have digital, but it represents 3% of my portfolio. Right now, I'm almost 85, 90% real estate. What I'm trying to do is build stocks and equity and other valuable assets. One thing I can tell you, for those of you who want to do a buy and hold, you want to buy a property, hold it, and rent it. One of the best things you can do for yourself is buy the property, hold the property, and take the profit on the rent and invest it in the stock market. You're taking someone else's paying for your investment, and someone else is diversifying you into the stock market, into growth and income mutual funds or Berkshire B index funds or multi-funds. You can diversify your portfolio. And what he was saying was, don't get overly zealous in one area. You really should be focused on diversification. And that's why this year I changed. I'm way too heavily invested in real estate. I'm going to hold real estate. But what I'm going to do is, in the meantime, I'm going to pay it off to be debt free. I may leverage it in the future, but I'm going to move the currency that I have into stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, index funds, income and growth funds. And I'm going to diversify, meaning I'm going to hold a small amount of digital, a small amount of precious metals, meaning gold, silver, titanium, whatever floats your boat, and then a larger portfolio of stocks and income and real estate. The only exception to that rule is business. And what he talked about earlier was locked funds. And I want you guys to understand what he meant was, you invest money. Now, they could be in a REIT, they could be in a bond, they could be in a fund. What you're saying is, I'm going to invest this money. I'm agreeing for it to be locked for a certain period of time. And I expect, or I hope, to get a return based on that lock. So here's where I am personally in life. I am diversification to build my portfolio, where I increase my stock, my mutual fund, my index funds, all things stock market, to match my holdings in real estate. And eventually I want to keep a small amount, and I recommend 10%, 15% or less, but 10 to 15% in digital and Forex and all those others, because they are so volatile. For example, 20 years ago, if you bought gold today, gold would be skyrocketing, but digital is killing gold. Forex is killing gold, because millennials are computer savvy and they're willing to go online, they're willing to learn it. And at the end of the day, it's all a gamble. But are you hedging your bet with what you're buying? Today, millions of people are buying real estate, including major banks, major institutions, because it's a fixed asset. Gold and silver, digital currency, Forex trading. Forex trading is betting the value of a currency. They bet it in pips, meaning this currency is worth 33.2. I think it's going to be 33.4. I'm betting 2 pips that it will go up. It's still a gamble. Long-term fixed assets, if you own a stock, you own part of the company. If you own real estate, you own something of value. You own gold, you own something of value. Forex trading and precious metal, and digital currency are air. They're betting on numbers. Gold, real estate, stocks are physical assets. You own them. If a company goes bankrupt, they have to cash out their physical assets. I'll take, for example, McDonald's. For any of you who watched the Ray Kroc story, McDonald's true value is in the fact that it owns real estate all over the world. If McDonald's went bankrupt tomorrow, they would not be bankrupt because they own real estate all over the world. Same with Bank of America, same with things like that. When he talks about crowdfunding and moving things, you're buying physical assets. You're buying a company that not only has a building, sometimes it may have a lease, but as a building, it has assets, it has a marketable name, it has other things to it that can make money. So here's the lesson or the takeaway. Those things are good, but they're a gamble. And I don't know about you, but I put money into them the way Dave Ramsey says. Whatever is extra, whatever I'm willing to gamble, whatever I'm willing to play with goes into it. The rest of it goes into business, goes into real estate, goes into hard assets, goes into stocks, goes into things like that. I ran off on a tangent, so I'm going to stop.
No, you were right in line with the portfolio. So here's what my personal portfolio looks like, right? In the red is my real estate sectors that I invest in. I have 50% of my wealth going into real estate. Now, my real estate is constructed in this manner: commercial, living assisted facility, hotels, single family residence, multifamily units. 50% of my wealth that's where it's going. 30% of my wealth is going into other businesses. And you'll see that on the purple side. And I have a slew of companies that I invest in the health and wellness space. I also have a life insurance portfolio, and I also have a cash portfolio. All of that is part of the 30%, which is included in having a all-weather fund. So whether they break out wars in Ukraine, Russia, China, this fund that I put together for me personally should take care of me in any type of disruptive to the markets. Now, 20% of my portfolio is in stocks, bonds, and intangibles like Forex. And I have that dissected into stocks, bonds. I don't know if any of you are familiar with acorns.com, but I have a drip going over there to acorns into a specific portfolio. Also dripping into Cash FX. Cash FX is doing really, really well for me. They're producing something like 10% every 3 to 4 weeks for me. But I don't have that much money in there. Why? Because that's a risky bet that they're doing. So anything in this purple space that goes dark, I want to be able to say I can bounce back from. So I don't want 90% of my money in stocks and neglect all the other sectors of investing. So there again, Charles Schwab is my broker for ETFs and dividends, as well as some other plays I have within that. The MT4, which is also a part of the Forex trading platform, and my broker. I think once you get to a certain level of wealth, initially you want to be a trader. So I'll eventually be becoming a trader later on, only because of how the structure of investing goes. I want my time back, but I know I want to travel and live a life eventually. And this structure here gives me the best advantage in order to do that. So I could send this out to you guys next week. Someone remind me next week about it, and I'll send you the this presentation that I had presented maybe about a year ago, and it was well received. But nonetheless, this is now a all-weather fund portfolio for anybody who wants to start. So it gets complicated. That's what I'm saying. So Terry, to answer your question, will we talk about Forex? Yes. The thing is, what do you have outside of, let's say, this 20% category that will be able to fund these accounts? These accounts aren't going to fund themselves. And it's rare that you're going to start off with $100 in the stocks and bonds space and make $1 million over a 1 to 2 year period. That's just not realistic. But in the meantime, if you have a savings and investing plan and you're dripping into these areas whilst you're learning, you would save yourself a lot of hassle. And that's why I keep talking about going after the money that will buy these assets and doing it in a team concept. So that's where our focus is going to be. But if you want specifics on Forex trading, you know, you and I can definitely go over that. I love Forex as well too. I just don't have the time to stare at the screen constantly in the Forex space. But it's a
Can I
beautiful.
say too,
Go ahead,
Devon,
John.
that I went to dabble in Forex, but you know, I'm a type of guy that I check the box. I wanted a certain amount of precious metals. So I had a number in mind, several
Yeah.
$1,000s. I carved out the number. I bought gold. I talked to a precious metals guy. I talked to another guy that I knew. I talked to 3 people. By the way, talked to 3 people or more in the space. And one guy said, look, precious metals is kind of like the world's going to end, or I'm going to need to barter. You know what I mean? And where I am with precious metals is the guy said, by the way, if you buy gold, before you buy the last piece of gold, break it off into silver and buy silver rounds, something that's tradable. Because if you end up in bartering, you can't give a $2,000 gold coin to somebody. You're going to need little pieces of silver. Now, I checked the box on mine. I was done with it. Here's what I'll say about digital currency. Digital currency has ridiculous fees, especially with Coinbase, like ridiculous amount of money. I bought Ethereum, it doubled. I paid so much money in fees, okay? Can you go to Robinhood and other places? Yes, you can. But here's what I want to say. Number one, I don't know, unless you make it your life, if you're going to get rich at Forex or rich at digital currency. It's a volatile space, and you need to know you're betting air. You are betting air. In other words, you're saying, I'm buying the serial number, or I'm buying currency with the expectation that it will drop or rise, and I'm betting the drop or the rise. You're not holding something like a piece of gold, a piece of real estate, a stock certificate that is a company with valuable assets attached to it. So for that reason, I just want to encourage people of wealth are focusing on 3 areas. 1, real estate, 2, stocks, and 3, business. Those are the 3 things I keep coming across that people hold. Some type of real estate, some type of stock, bond, or investment that's a real asset, and some type of business that generates income. And that's where my focus has transitioned to. But I'd like to hear from Tori, Terry, and Kavan. What's your number 1 goal right now that you want to get into for a space? Your number 1 priority.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I would say I was invited to this call based on Devon. We are colleagues in the financial services industry, and he has always spoke, highly of real estate. I've always seen him as someone who knows what he's saying. And, he presented an opportunity to me recently as it relates to wholesaling. So I live in Trinidad and Tobago. That's in the Lesser Antilles, just sitting on top of South America. And, we have a population of 1.3 million here. And our country has been focused more on our natural resources for many years, oil and gas. And they failed to look forward and diversify in a timely manner over the years. Now they're starting new projects, but I think that these projects should have been started. Personally, I think these projects should have been started at least 10 to 15 years ago, so that we could, transition with the world and its technological advances. And, when the pandemic struck, it really showed a lot of people the importance of being multifaceted and having different skill sets and being able to transition with what we could call today as the new norm. And, for me, real estate, I've always been passionate about it, but what I'm more passionate about is the Caribbean and people in the Caribbean going online and making a living virtually, making the world smaller and being able to communicate, network, and close deals and be successful virtually. So my first goal within this group, is to prove concept to everyone that's in the Caribbean through this venture. And from here, learn exactly how to wholesale within the US from here, and close enough deals so that I could become an example to everyone else, and hopefully bring much more people into this group to move forward with this initiative.
Kavan, can I go quickly to a question that was asked by Tori? And then I'll circle back to you. So
Sure.
Tori, you asked me where I buy my gold from. Look, Tori, if you go online, Money Metals, Kitco, everything else, I found a local gold and silver shop where the guy matched Kitco, which is a major online gold and silver dealer. He matched their prices and he used the Kitco price. There's always a premium going in, a premium going out. So if you buy gold that day, you might pay 4.5%, 5%. It's a little more steeper today because of what's going on. But here's what I did. I went to a guy I knew in Daytona Beach and I asked him his questions of him, like, where should I buy? What should I do? It comes down to what you can trust. The guy that was locally here in Brevard County, he matched Kitco prices. He had a machine that tested the gold. I went to another place that tested the gold. It was all valid. I started out with a small purchase, had it tested, and they're going to sell you what they want to sell you. But the bottom line was this. I bought a lump sum of gold coins. You could buy actual gold, whatever else. I wanted the coins because I like the look of them. I like the tradability of the liberties. I also wanted multiple different gold coins. But I literally set out and I said, look, I want to own $15,000 in precious metal. That was my goal. I just wanted it. I wanted to increase my liquidable assets of hard assets of cash and gold and precious metals to be between 15 and 20%. And I went out for that and I did it. Now, since then, I've way increased my real estate and I wish I had kept up with gold, but I bought what I thought was enough. Find a gold dealer you trust, make a small purchase, verify it at another gold dealer, or find a gold dealer that works off of Kitco, that works off of Money Metals, that works off a reputable site that will sell you gold, or buy through a reputable site. That's the answer to that. The other thing is, look, I don't think the economy is going to collapse tomorrow. Too much depends on the economy. Rich people, poor people, the government, too much depends on it. But I'd be a liar if I didn't tell you that I keep 2,000 rounds of ammunition. I keep gold, I keep silver, I keep cash. I don't do it because I think the world's going to fall apart tomorrow. I do it because I'm into diversification in all ways. I want money invested everywhere. Why am I here? So you'll ask, why am I here? I'm here because I'm a small business owner. I'm a retiree. I'm a buy and hold. I'm a flipper. I'm a real estate owner. But what I don't do, I'm getting more involved in stock buying. I'm doing small percentages. I plan to do a little bit of Forex in the future, a little bit of buy and hold, a little bit of individual stocks. But I also plan to look into, and I'm going to be, Devon can tell you this because I've called him many times. I plan to look into capital raising, either group funding, either bond funding, some kind of business funding. What you need to do is you need to start with a lane, start with one thing that you can do, a single flip, a single buy and hold, a primary residence that you intend to flip out of. You need to start with one asset class that you can sink into at a decent rate, decent thing. And if you can't afford to do that, maybe you can go to a group fund, a REIT, an ETF, a buy and hold or whatever. But you need to look at getting in the game, because when you learn the game, all the games are the same. I don't care if it's real estate. I don't care if it's gold. I don't care if it's Forex. I don't care if it's stocks. There are rules. There's a glossary of terms to understand, and there's a way to go about doing it to make money. And there's a risk. There is a risk. Okay. Choose a lane, start with something, start small, start big, do what you can do, and make it exponentially. But to answer the question you had about gold or silver, look, gold or silver is an asset that you hold. It may go down, it may go up, but you hold it. It's a piece of gold in your hand. Now, if you own cryptocurrency, you own a number on a piece of paper. It's a random number. It has no existential value. And that's why Warren Buffett says it's a fad or whatever. Bottom line is millennials, if you look at the world, millennials grew up with computers. My nephews are millennials. They buy things, they like the crypto, they like things online. That's why GameStop had such a big stop in the buy and hold and everything that happened. But intrinsically, real estate, stocks, ETFs, bonds, things of value that are attached to other real estate, other business names, logos. Look at Hostess. Hostess sold based on a name. A new company bought them, baked good under the name Hostess. You're looking for a trademark. You're looking for a name. You're looking for real estate. You're looking for stocks. You're looking for intrinsic value. And that's what Warren Buffett teaches. A company that has intrinsic value. He teaches P/E ratio. But here's what I'll tell you. If you're starting out, Tori, pick a lane, do well in it. And then once you do well in it, now it's time to look at diversifying it to other options.
I think Tori want to compound her money at 20% each turn of the tape for the Forex thing. Tori, I think I have an Excel spreadsheet here that gives you the calculation for that. So for example, I think if you start out with 120 bucks and you do a 20% return every time you trade, you get to 52 trades, you're now at $1 million in revenue. But there again, you know, those lessons are so far and few. Now yes, there are people that are doing it in the Forex, and this is the spreadsheet that they go by. And this, I didn't make this, by the way. This was given to me by a professional trader.
You can also go to Vegas and put it all on black.
Well, if you're starting out at 120 bucks and lose it all, you don't cry about it, right?
Yeah.
You don't, this is not adding any money to it either, right?
Yeah.
So you start over at 120. Some take 4 years, some take 5 years. Some are frantic believers in this thing. And yes, is it doable? Yes. I just don't want to be tied to the screen for the next 4 years to do it. So I think that's it for tonight. I probably won't pressure anybody else because I know we went over our time again here to the tune of maybe 27 minutes. But like everything else, I think we did a good thing tonight. We covered a lot of ground tonight. Terry, where do you want to start, right? Yeah, your volume, we're still having
I
issues.
can't hear you.
Yeah, we're still having issues hearing you.
Tori, do you want to chime in while
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but there's a lot of noise in the background, but we can hear you.
Okay. No, I was saying to John, okay, so I still want to buy that, to start real estate in Florida. I keep going back and forth, whether it's to buy and hold or rent. I'm all over the place. I drive John crazy. But I was saying, when he was talking about the crypto, I don't hold the crypto. I only hold Bitcoin. Well, sometimes I, sell it when it goes up and down. I only hold stocks, ETFs, mutual funds, and my real estate in New York. I was gonna hit the ground running in Florida, but the one told me to wait 6 months, so he slowed me down.
Can I say this to you? I really think that a meeting with Christine from the mortgage firm, she is a brilliant person, and she came up with a 5-in-1 ARM, which is a 5-year fixed rate, adjusting after 1 year for my friend Matt, who was looking at a loan for a condo-tel. She is a resource for you. If you connect with Christine, she can provide conforming loans and private money, and she can give you at least an answer to what it would take to do a property for your first flip or your first buy and hold. And you may go elsewhere, but she can give you real answers to what you can afford, what you can buy, and what you can expect that they'll want up front for purchasing that property, especially doing it through conforming or private money. And I will go with you to a meeting with her because I talking to her is always good for me. I refer a lot of people to her because she wrote me a mortgage. She's brilliant at what she does. And someday in the future, maybe we'll invite her on to teach everybody a little bit about what she does, because she does conforming loans and private loans. She doesn't necessarily do hard money, but she does conforming and private. Tori, you need to look up conforming loans, so you know. You don't need the money, but just to know it in the future. Now, Terry, for you to learn that will be a situation where you know where you're at for whether you have to go to hard money. Because let me tell you something, hard money is not cheap, hard money is not easy, and hard money is going to be a challenge for you with whatever you do. Now, having said that, I will go see Christine with you. You can reach out to me in the future, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. My girlfriend has a honey-do list, and I have to hook up with Devon on some stuff, you know, yard work today and for the next 2 days. But what I'm saying to you is, Tori or Terry, you have an opportunity, but every day that goes by, the market is going up. We expect a correction, but right now the market is going up. And you're in a situation where you're either going to chase the up or you're going to wait for the correction. And we don't know if the correction is going to be severe or minor. So it's something you need to look at. The other thing is, Terry, I would choose a lane if I were you, because I know you're interested in digital. I know you're interested in Forex. I know you're interested in this. But truthfully, one good investment and one good amount of homework can lead you to knowledge and information that you can apply to every other venue that you do. You know? So I would go to the mortgage broker. I would get my options. I would know where I'm at. I would know what my options are for private money. And if I couldn't do private money, I'd know I'm stuck to hard money or to another venue. Tori, any other questions you have for where you're at?
Yeah, is anyone familiar with auction.com?
Yeah.
I might have been to it before. I don't remember it. What are you looking at? Let me go to it and see.
Is it legit? Is it
Okay, so here's what I'm going to tell you about auctions. I don't know if that's on there, but here's the thing. With Brevard County, I can go directly to the Brevard County website, call up the calendar, and get Brevard County's auctions. Here's what I want to tell you about auctions. I want to give you a caution. My attorney, who's also a broker, he and I were going to do some auctions together. We went into the auction space. We went into the liens, auctions, everything else. All these people paying for these $29,000 programs and everything else. They went in, we isolated 3 condominiums and 1 piece of land we wanted, four properties we looked at. Every single one was bid over what you would pay on Brevard MLS for a standard transaction. In other words, imagine if you could go to Walmart and buy something for $5 and people at the auction were paying $7.
No, there's a group to the left. I don't know if you've been, because I've been to them as well. And they have a stable group of guys that are sitting there bidding and overbidding.
Over.
And I felt that same way too. I thought they were in league with the banks, right?
And let me tell you something. Before I did real estate, my uncle told me, you don't know shit, pardon my French.
Mhm.
And he said to me, you got to go to this class. I paid $5,000, $5,000. And I went to Don Williams' real estate trainee appraisal course, and I became a Florida certified appraiser trainee.
Mhm.
Back in, it expired in 2014. It was like 12 to 14. But I was licensed on how to appraise properties for mortgages and government properties. And here's what I'll tell you. These idiots, when I went to look at these condos, they were trading at $21,000. These idiots were paying $23,000 to $30,000 for condos they could have bought for 21 on the internet on Brevard MLS.
Yeah.
They could have just went and bought it for 21,
Yeah.
and they were paying 23 to 30 because they're out of state, they have no clue, and they think it's a reality. So these auction websites, you have to be very careful. Now, my attorney and broker picked up 2, but he was willing to pick up ones with rental restrictions, have to rent for 90 days, have to do this. And he was able to pick up a few. He low bid and he got lucky. But he bid on 20 properties before he got lucky on 2.
Mhm.
So he had a 10% ratio of success. Look,
If that.
they're
Sometimes
there,
it's a lot
but
less.
they're rare. And here's what I'm going to tell you. They're cash deals. If you know how to look at value, you know how to go to Zillow, you know how to go to MLS, you know how to look at value, You know a deal when you see it. You look at the deal and you say, how can this be true? How these numbers don't match? You're looking at the rentability if it's a buy and hold. You're looking at the value. All of your money on a flip is made on the buy. All of your money on the flip is made on the buy. Does that mean the buy and flip in 90 days? No, that means the buy and flip when you set a time period. I bought a condo in East Vieira for 135. I looked at it and I said, this property just goes up and up and up. It's a desired area. Why are people not bidding on it? Today, I bought that property in 2014 for 135. I have 174 in it. Today, they market at 315. And I make $980 a month rent. Once I go to market rate, I'll be at $1,250, $1,300 a month. Why do I know that? I looked at what people were buying them for, what the location was, and real estate, location, 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 okay? Buys are hard to find. People who do their homework, people who know their numbers, Terry, P-I-T-I-H, P-I-T-I-H. I drill it for a reason. People who know their numbers, know their deals, okay? And what I will tell you is, Tori and Terry, you're both looking at buying a piece of property and flipping it or buy and holding it. The more you learn, the smarter you will be, the more this will transition to Forex. This will transition to stock. This will transition to everything else. There is an asset, it has a value. It has a perceived value long-term. You put those two together, you will get better at what you do. I was an idiot. I bought a house and I did stupid things like, let me put in LED recessed lighting that at the time in 2013 cost me $90 per unit. Today you can buy them for $14 to $29. And I put them in and I left $7 grand on the table. I made 30, but I left 7 to 10 grand on the table. Knowledge really does translate to power, really does translate to income. Pick a lane. If it's going to be Forex, it's going to be Forex. If it's going to be stock, it's going to be stock. If it's going to be a flip, it's going to be a flip. If it's going to be a buy and hold, it's going to be a buy and hold. If you're starting out, not you, Tori, but you, Terry, picking a property that you live in and you stay there 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, you're going to capital gains, you're going to be able to cash out, put all that money towards the next one, and you're going to save taxes going forward. Tori, for you, you want to pick a property that is something that is location, location, location. If you're in the islands, it's a property that you can either Airbnb or a property you can flip to someone who wants to live there. The third thing is, you need to know your numbers. Add 15% to whatever you think you're going to flip it at. And be willing to pay the price. Education costs money. I bought a property for 159, sold it for 240, only made 30. Why? 10 to 20 grand I left on the table because I learned. I learned that when you refinish a pool, you can pay $2,900 instead of $3,700 because you don't need a pebble finish. You can put in lights, but you don't need LED. There's $1,500, $2,000. You don't need to finish the garage floor for $800. I learned if you're going to flip out of it, if it's your home you're going to live in, it's great. But if it's your home you're going to flip out of, those are dollars you don't need to spend. I learned those the hard way. You will learn, but you will do better. And inside of you is an amazing person willing to come out, willing to really charge the world head first and say, screw everybody. I'm going to prove that I can rise to this occasion and I can do something great for myself. And inside every person is this. Half the people are going to go through life. They're going to look at life with a humdrum mentality of who gives a shit, of just pass the day, watch cable television. The other half is going to say, I can go out and do that. Inside of you is that person. And inside of you is that person who is willing to fail and willing to put down on a piece of paper, this is what I could have done. I got a B or a B minus. Next time I'll get a B plus. Next time I'll get an A minus. My third deal, I'm going to get an A plus, and I'm going to be somebody. And define what your goal is. Because I'll tell you, 10 years ago, the world collapsed on me for what I created due to an injury in the line of duty. And everything I built collapsed. Within 3 to 4 years, I was building something new. And now today, this year, I will achieve the goal I set for myself. And my girlfriend has achieved, when I met her, I said, the way a man loves a woman is we ask you, what's everything you want in life? I have to help you achieve it. I said, give me a 5-year plan. In 4 years, everything on our list was done. I said, that's how I love you. If you don't know anything else, that's how I love you. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Tori and Terry and Kevon, for you too, pick a goal, pick a mission for yourself. Grade yourself, not on an A plus, grade yourself on a C plus or better, and then tell yourself, whatever I score, I'm going to do better the next time, and I'm going to learn from my mistakes and make it better. And you will do it. And there are people that will help you. Because inside of you is a person screaming to get out that you can do this. Okay? All right. No more sermons. I'm done with my religion.
No, man, religion is part of the game, right? So we hope everybody got something out of that. And there again, you know, you guys make this club what you want it to be, right? If you see an opportunity out there, bring it to the table and work your magic.
Tori, bring that island property to the table. I want to see it. Because we take a lot of cruises. Well, before COVID, we took a lot of cruises, but we go down a lot of places. I want to see that deal.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
And if you're going to pay cash, that means you're sitting on a bankroll.
Kind of. I don't know, kind of.
Don't worry, I'm not going to buy anything in the Caribbean. But I have my own plan. Devon has his own plan. Terry has her own plan. But you don't have to tell us the exact address, but I'd like to see your plan. I'd like to give you some information on it. There's nothing better than pulling a person, sharing a moment with a person, and crossing a finish line with another person.
So I can reach out to you via email. I know
I posted it on here. I'll
Okay.
post it one more time. Just to advise you, and I want to say this up front, in a lot of ways, I consider myself a small-time guy. I did 2 houses, 2 condos, 2 buy and holds, 2 long-term flips. I did 3 additional flips with partners, friends, and family. To me, it was a part-time gig. I'm really restricted to real estate, to buy, hold, buy, flip, and basically diversification. Any other expertise for business, bonds, REITs, funding, I would defer to Devon on that, because it's not my area of expertise. But if it's starting out in flipping, starting out in investing, diversifying and learning about that, that's where I'm an expert at, or I'm better than most people at. But the rest I will defer to Devon, because I'm not a Forex guy. With trading, I do individual stocks with my Roth IRA. I do index growth and mutual funds, growth and income funds with my regular investments. I don't do that other stuff. I do very small, less than 3% gold, silver, and digital. And really, I do it like Warren Buffett, as Devon said. I do it as a very small part of my portfolio for fun and for just that worst case scenario. And honest to God, I was a cop for 21 years. So paranoia and, end of the world scenario, diversifying, I'm using the income to move into ETFs, mutual funds, income and growth funds. But if you're starting out like you and Terry and Tori, you were starting out, and Kevon, I don't know, you mentioned in the business and the acquisition portfolio, but Tori and Terry, your first deal is going to make or break you. Your first deal is going to teach you. And what you learn from that is going to propel you into everything else. So if you want to bring it to the table, I welcome you. If you're worried about, and I will say this, at previous groups, I was always worried, as was a friend of mine who was unable to make the group tonight. He didn't like bringing deals to the group because he was always afraid the other people would snag the deals. I'm not looking to snag any deals. Terry, you know me, you know where I'm at, we've met. I have a mission for what I want to accomplish. I set out a personal goal for my girlfriend and myself. Devon knows this, Terry knows this. I am well on the way for my own personal goals. I do have some additional goals to learn from Devon, what he's doing in his space. And I am going to transition out of buy and holds, out of real estate, and into bonds, long-term gains, lock and holds, and the things that Devon's doing. And in fairness too, if anyone wants to know about me, I own Beech Tree Private Investigations. So if you look up Beech Tree Investigations, LLC, that's my company. I do private investigations on the side. It's just for my career. I have multiple levels of what I do. I have a pension, I have a private business, I have buy and holds, I have real estate, and I have precious metals, and I have digital, and I have this. My goal is to grow the portfolio as many ways as I can. So that's my disclosure.
That's the goal for everybody.
Yeah, I'm still a baby step. I'm very small on the way there.
No,
For what I want to achieve, I'm very small, and don't mislead me because I use all those words doesn't mean I'm there yet. I am still climbing.
Now, look at it this way. The average income in America is $50,000 per head. Not many people have an emergency fund to afford $1,000 bill right now. So once you look at that and you're able to have just those in place, you're way ahead of the game. The average age of a millionaire in the US is 53. The average age of a billionaire is 63. So we got time.
Luckily, I'm close, but I'm almost there. I'll let you know when I'm there because we'll celebrate tomorrow. We'll go out drinking. You know what I mean? But
And that's it. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to end the show here, and I'll see you guys next week with all new stories and a whole new direction, or put it this way, a different view on the same asset class.
Thank you.
Guys, I
appreciate
agree.
it.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
all
thank
right,
you.
Tori and Terry, bring us a deal, and I'm going to challenge two of you. Terry, bring me a deal. Go on brevardmls.com, which is a public website. Go on Zillow. Pick a property you think you could flip. Pick a property you want to do. Present it to us. Tell us what you're thinking, and we'll give you feedback. Tori, if you're willing to talk about it, if you're not, I respect it either way. But if you're willing to talk about what you're looking at, what your goal is, and just take some feedback about where you're at.
I'm actually sending you an email now. So
All right, Kavan, I'm not 100% sure what you do because you and Devon are like beyond where I'm at. And Devon knows I've been bugging him left and right. Devon, I will log on tomorrow too, by the way.
Yeah.
I am really interested in developing what we're talking about, but
agreed.
we've got some more stuff in the pipeline. I think Devon's a good partner for me because I have some crazy ideas. He has some crazy ideas, and one way or the other, we're going to get them launched. But here's what I want. I want to grow this into a space where you can bring something here and get free advice onto where you're going, and you can throw it away or you can take it. But by the way, too, and I've told this to Terry, at any time, and I'll ask Devon for permission in the future, Devon, if you can allow me in the future, I am willing to go online, take a screen capture if you make me a host.
Mhm.
I'm willing to show pictures of before and after of the flip and
Yeah.
show where someone can look me up on the internet and verify what I bought, what I owe, what I paid off. You can, Terry, by the way, you can go on Brevard Clerk's official records. You can see what I bought, what I own, what I paid off, where I'm at, so that you know that I'm still a baby. I'm maybe 40% along my journey, but you can see, I'll show you my before pictures, my after pictures, where I'm at, what I did. And I can show you like concessions that I made, like not replacing cabinets, but putting in countertops, where I cut my expenses to get a product out to be able to rent it. Because we all make concessions along the way. Okay.
Yeah, not at no problem, John. Anytime you're ready.
Okay, guys, yeah, guys, I just wanted to conclude because I didn't get a chance to, finish my introduction. And, I see it fit to do that right now. I'm happy to know that a lot of passion has been thrown around the room. But also, so for me, primarily within this group, my goal is to be taught. My goal is to learn about real estate and, see how I could invite other people in the Caribbean to do the same and, generate some form of income.
Kevon, where are you now for your journey?
I would say cybersecurity. Currently, I have assembled a team of world-class executives, and I am attempting to acquire existing cybersecurity companies.
That's more of a Devon space than me.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with real estate. That's why I didn't feel compelled, to share that within the group. But as it relates to the private investigation, it's definitely something that I would want to speak to you about. I would need to hire a private investigator to assist us with investigation of acquisitions.
So Kevon, here's the thing that I'm going to tell you. I would love to talk to you. In the space of private investigation, there's very specific rules and parameters for researching and doing certain things around that. Also, there's limitations because a lot of research in private investigation is limited to credit-bearing institutions. So when you run credit backgrounds, I'm a member of very specific software programs that run specific background checks as it relates to credit, as it relates to the United States of America. And there are some limitations for foreign countries as to what credit production is produced, and also limitations as to what information is produced. So I'm not 100% sure. Where are you located now?
Right, I am located in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, I
my
actually
consortium
have a very close friend who's a mediator who is got family where you're at. And I can reach out to him here locally in Melbourne. He's got family, I believe, in Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago. There may be a limited access for what I can achieve because I have to operate under the United States laws for credit and verification. However, having said that, there may be some opportunities to get together on that. Cybersecurity too is also, it's open to where it operates at. So wherever you're operating at may be operating in multiple platforms, meaning you can operate in Europe, you can operate in America, you can operate abroad in different spaces, and you would have to operate under the parameters of multiple locations when you do that.
Okay. Well, maybe I neglected to say that the consortium is going to be operating primarily within the United States. So if it is that your private investigation skill set is required, it would be within that geographical region.
Just one thing to share with the group. I'm retired law enforcement. I was in law enforcement for 21 years. I got injured in the line of duty. I cashed out my retirement in order to transition into real estate. That's how I got involved in this back in 2012. So I've been almost 10 years in this space. However, because of my law enforcement career, I have graduate degrees and investigation experience, specifically a master's in credit towards a PhD in criminology. and I also worked in that space. I've done cold cases and some investigative stuff with police departments and private investigators. I formed a private investigation company just because I was tired of not getting paid. In other words, Terry, at the end of the day, there's got to be money in my hand for the work that I do. Okay, it's got to equate to something. So I formed the private investigation company so that I could legally bill. However, I have found myself doing a bunch of pro bono work. There are very specific things that a private investigator who's licensed in the United States and specifically Florida can do, specifically credit pulls, specifically information pulls, things like that. For anyone who wants to look at it, beechtreepi.com. Beechtreepi.com is my website. I encourage you to look at it, but you don't need to do anything with it if you don't care. But here's what I'll say. For you, go to beechtreepi.com, look at it, see if it's something that could help you. There are some things I can do for you, but I may be limited in what I could produce depending on what you need. If I can help you, I'll help you. If I can't, I'll tell you I can't. By the way, one good thing I want to tell you, Terry, and I want to tell you, Tori, I retired from government work in 2012 when I was 40. The most freeing thing in the world was real estate investment, because it taught me how to invest in digital. It taught me how to invest in precious metals. It taught me how to think about money as a tool. Money is a tool. Investing is a tool. You are a tool. You are a resource. Don't think of any of this as one particular space. Think of it as a toolbox with multiple tools in how to achieve a goal. And what I would say to you is this: you have within your resource, whatever you're planning to do, build that resource, and that information, that stuff that you learn will transition to every single space, stock, whatever it is. It will transition. It'll be a little different. You'll have a learning curve on the acronyms, on the numbers, on everything else, but the fundamentals will remain the same. And I don't have anything more for you other than to say this: dig down deep inside you, figure out a way to make it work. The best way to make it work is this: run the numbers, run the deal. For you, Terry, go look at MLS, go look at Zillow, pick a property you think would work, present it to the group, say, look, give me permission for the screen share. I'll show you the property. I'll show you what I'm looking at. I'll show you what I'm thinking of doing, and get the feedback. For you, Tori, consider presenting an idea for what you want to do and get feedback based on, have you done flips before, Tori?
No, never.
So what makes you want to go from Atlanta to the islands?
Oh, because I know a contractor there.
Okay, here's what I'm going to tell you, Tori. A contractor there is nice, but a contractor there makes money for what he or she does for you. Every project I've ever done, I was the general. I didn't need a license. I didn't need anything else. I was the guy who showed up, and I was the guy who ran the budgets, ran what I needed to do. And I was the guy who said, look, put the granite over the old cabinets. I know it's not the best, but it's the concession I need to make to get this property rented. Because you don't want to be in a situation where the real estate agent makes money, tax person makes money, the contractor makes money, the plumber makes money, the electrician makes money. Guess who doesn't make money? Tori. There's money in
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say something really quick, to Tori. So I had many opportunities to do stuff in Jamaica, to buy, build, and whatnot, and I refused to, because people will screw you over tremendously. So I'm going to get right here in the US, where I am, where I can keep an eye on it, and I can go and be this boss lady. So to Tori, just be careful. You could trust them, but at the end of the day, as John says, it's all about the Benjamins. So, yeah.
You don't want a situation where everyone's making money but the person owning it. Because let me tell you something, the HOA is going to take their few hundred a month. The tax guy is going to take his few hundred a month. The insurance person is going to take their 100 or 2 a month. The real estate agent is going to take their commission on the buy, commission on the sell, commission on the rental. What's left for you? The remodel costs, the closing costs, everything else. You need to protect yourself, because I'll tell you something, you're the only person looking out for you. Okay? And I will tell you something, Tori, if I could do something locally, I would do it locally where I could run the show before I do it internationally. Not to say you couldn't hit a deal, but I'll tell you something, every property I did in the 7 or 8 I've done, 9 I've done, I was there, I was standing there when I talked to contractors. I knew what I could do myself. I knew what I couldn't do myself. I knew what I was willing to sub out. And I also made deals. I went to the flooring guy and I said, listen, the first guy wanted $3 per square foot. The second guy said, I'll do $1 per square foot if you cut the boards and lay them out. I went and got the flooring. I delivered it. I cut them. I laid them out for the guy. He tapped them in. I saved 2/3 of the bill. What I'm trying to tell you is everything on paper looks good. And Devon said this earlier. There's these companies that will charge you 30 grand for what you're getting today for free. You've probably gotten at least 20 or 30% of what they charge 29 grand for free today. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to digest. But here's what I'll tell you. If you're not there, if you're not in control of it, they will take advantage of you. Buy my book. Give me money, right? You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying to you is this. Don't leave money on the table, because every dollar you leave on the table is a dollar you lost in profit. And you don't have to be perfect. You have to be good, not great.
Just bring your deal to the table, Tori.
Bring it to the table and let
Yeah,
us give you some opinions on it.
I've built in the islands already. You know, you name the island in the Caribbean, I've been there. I've built in Jamaica, I built in the Bahamas, we built in South America, I built in Mexico. So,
Yeah, have you built in the US VI?
The USVI, we funded deals in the USVI. I haven't been to where the deals were funded, but those were built, yes.
Do you have any properties in Bahamas right now?
Yeah, I got 4,000 acres in the Bahamas right now.
Well, no, but I mean rental properties.
Yeah, we do. We have close to maybe about 100.
Any temporary rentals for people visiting?
Sure. Oh, there's always temporary. You know, you tell me the island that you want to be on. I'm sure I have a
Well,
friend.
just Grand Bahamas, wherever the cruise ships goes, we go there. We used to,
Okay.
before COVID, we went there 3-4 times a year.
Yeah, Grand Bahama is good. Nassau is great, but you know, nothing like going to those other places other than Freeport or Nassau.
Yeah.
You'd get the down home treatment similar to the USVI.
Yeah, we were big cruisers before COVID. We cruised all the time. The Bahamas is amazing, by the way.
Yeah,
Absolutely
it is.
amazing.
Yeah, even I cruised there. You kidding me? But yeah, Tori, just bring your deal to the table, and you know, let's take a look at it. I think there's tons of value there.
So just present next Sunday. Is
Just
that
present
fine?
it. Yep. Just
Okay.
present it. next
Terry,
Sunday.
go to MLS and pull a deal. Pull a deal.
All right. I'm going to end the show there, guys. We probably did a little over an hour extra today. I know I've been trying to keep it to an hour, but there were so many questions today. We just had to really cover, but nonetheless, keep bringing the questions. I'll go over as many times as we need to. All right. Other than that, I'll see you guys here next week. Same bat station, same bat time.
Have a great
Thank
weekend.
you.
All right.
Bye.
Great call, guys. Great call. Take care.
All righty.